Caden Voss wiped sweat from his forehead as he stepped over the jagged remains of a fallen combat bot. Its metal limbs were twisted, wires dangling like broken veins, and its once bright sensors were dark, lifeless. The desert stretched endlessly around him, a barren wasteland littered with the skeletons of machines that had once been warriors. The wind carried a hollow metallic whistle through the wreckage, making the graveyard feel almost alive. He adjusted the straps on his backpack and glanced at Argo, his combat bot companion. Its polished armor reflected the harsh sunlight, and its optical sensors scanned the area with precise, unblinking focus. Caden trusted Argo more than anyone else in the world, maybe more than himself. Without a word, the bot stepped beside him, ready for whatever the day might throw at them. "I don't like it here," Caden muttered, more to himself than to Argo. "Too quiet. Something's not right." Argo's sensors whirred softly. It had no voice to reply, no feelings to share, but Caden had learned long ago that the bot understood him in its own way. When they moved together, human and machine, they were faster, smarter, and stronger than most scavengers in the desert. Caden's boots crunched over the sand as he approached the center of the graveyard. The wrecks were older here, buried under layers of dust and metal. A chill ran down his spine as he stepped into a shadow cast by a collapsed hangar. Something hummed faintly beneath the rubble. The sound was soft, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat, and it made Caden stop. He bent down, brushing sand from the edge of a twisted panel. "Argo," he said, keeping his voice low, "do you hear that?" The bot tilted its head, sensors scanning the rubble. A faint pulse of energy registered on its internal display. Caden's heart quickened. This wasn't random. It wasn't a machine dying quietly. Someone, or something, was sending a signal. His fingers trembled slightly as he pried at the metal with a crowbar, revealing a small hatch. The pulse grew stronger. Caden swallowed hard. The desert had eaten hundreds of machines, yet this signal survived. Something alive waited beneath the wreckage, and Caden knew he had to find it. The hatch was heavy, and Caden's muscles burned as he lifted it. Dust and debris tumbled into the sand. He crouched, peering into the darkness below. The pulse was clearer now, a low, steady vibration that seemed almost intentional. It wasn't mechanical noise. It was a message waiting for someone to understand it. Could it be a trap? He muttered. Every scavenger knew the desert was full of dangers. Hidden mines, collapsing structures, automated defense systems left behind by war machines. But Caden didn't have the luxury of fear. He had to see it. Curiosity, survival, and something deeper, a need to protect what could still be saved, drove him forward. He slid down into the narrow opening, Argo following closely behind. The interior was cramped, walls lined with scratched panels and fractured circuitry. The pulse resonated against the metal, vibrating through Caden's bones. It felt alive. The thought made him shiver. Suddenly, a loose piece of metal fell from the ceiling, clanging against the floor. Caden jumped back instinctively, heart pounding. The desert outside was quiet, but down here the wreckage felt like it was watching. Argo's sensors lit up, scanning the shadows for danger. "This way," Caden said, following the vibration deeper. The pulse grew stronger, almost like a guiding hand leading him through the wreckage. His mind raced. What kind of machine could survive for decades in this graveyard and still be alive? And why was it trying to reach him? As he crawled through a tangle of cables and broken armor plates, a soft glow began to appear ahead. Caden's eyes widened. It wasn't fire or electricity, it was steady, rhythmic, pulsing with a strange energy. The glow came from beneath a mound of twisted metal, almost hidden in plain sight. Caden hesitated. He had faced dangers before, pirates, rogue bots, collapsing ruins, but nothing like this. The air smelled of ozone and dust, strange and sharp in his nostrils. Yet something inside him, human curiosity, courage, stubbornness, pushed him forward. He wasn't leaving without knowing what was down here. With a deep breath, he pulled aside the last pieces of wreckage. The source of the glow emerged, and Caden's jaw tightened in disbelief. A ship. Sleek, silver, unlike anything he had ever seen. Its hull was flawless, humming with energy as if it were breathing. Strange symbols flickered across its surface, pulsing in a pattern that seemed deliberate. Caden knelt beside it, fingers hovering over the hull. The pulse was stronger now, almost communicative. He realized something that made his heart skip a beat. The ship wasn't just alive, it was sending a message, waiting for someone to understand it. "Argo," he whispered, a mixture of awe and tension in his voice. This is bigger than anything we've found before." The bot's optics glowed, scanning the ship, ready to follow Caden wherever he decided to go next. Outside, the wind swept across the graveyard, carrying the silence of hundreds of dead machines. Yet beneath it all, a faint pulse continued, steady, insistent, alive. Caden swallowed, knowing that this discovery could change everything. He had no idea what was waiting inside, but he knew one thing. He was about to face the impossible. And the ship was ready for him. Caden's hands trembled as he traced the glowing lines along the alien hull. The symbols pulsed in a rhythm he couldn't understand, but somehow, instinctively, he felt they were trying to communicate. Every pulse was precise, deliberate, and alive. It wasn't just a message, it was a warning. "Argo, scan for life signs," Caden ordered. His voice was steady but his pulse raced. The bot's sensors swept over the ship, highlighting energy fields, structural integrity, and most importantly, any movement inside. There was something inside. Something active. The ship's hull vibrated under his touch. A soft hum resonated through the air, like a voice without words. Caden swallowed, feeling a mix of fear and awe. The desert graveyard had claimed hundreds of machines, yet this ship had survived, alive, waiting, and somehow aware. He pried open the hatch slowly. The metal groaned under his weight, a sharp contrast to the smooth, almost organic energy of the ship. Dust and sand spilled inside, but the glow continued, steady and insistent. Caden slid in first, Argo following, the bot's sensors whirring in synchronization with his own heartbeat. The interior was nothing like he expected. Smooth walls, soft luminescence, and panels etched with more symbols. The air smelled faintly metallic but cleaner, sharper than the desert outside. The ship seemed conscious. It pulsed with intelligence, but it was also defensive. Caden reached a control panel that hummed under his fingers. He tried to read it, scanning through Argo's translations and the ship's energy flow. The patterns made no sense, until he noticed the repetition. The symbols weren't random, they were instructions. A sequence. A map. A warning. "This isn't just tech," Caden muttered, voice low. "It's alive, and it needs us." Argo stepped closer, its servos clicking softly. The bot's programming didn't allow curiosity, only action, yet here it waited, patient and precise. Caden realized the truth. No machine could solve this alone. Only a human could interpret it, think beyond algorithms, and act on instinct. Suddenly, a warning flashed across the main panel. Red lights blinked, accompanied by a low, resonant hum that shook the floor. Automated defenses had detected movement. Caden froze. In the desert graveyard, scavengers often faced automated traps, but this felt smarter, faster, more dangerous. He ducked as a small energy turret emerged from a wall panel, firing a pulse that melted sand where it hit. Argo blocked another, its reinforced arm absorbing the blast. The ship wasn't hostile, it was testing them. Every pulse, every movement measured their skill, their intelligence. Caden's mind raced. He couldn't fight this with brute force. The ship was adaptive, and every failed action triggered more defensive measures. He studied the symbols again, following patterns, searching for a rhythm. Logic and intuition blended in his mind. The human brain could see connections machines couldn't. "Argo, follow my lead," he whispered, fingers flying over the controls. He tapped symbols in sequence, timed with the ship's pulse. The turrets fired again, but now he moved in perfect sync, dodging blasts, pressing the right panels, responding to the energy rhythm. The ship pulsed brighter. The red warning lights faded. The turrets retracted. A low chime echoed through the cabin, a signal of recognition. Caden's breath caught in his throat. They had passed the first test. The ship trusted them enough to reveal more. From the center of the cabin, a holographic projection emerged. Stars, planets, and glowing pathways appeared in three-dimensional space. The map shifted, highlighting a distant world. Symbols flickered along the edges, forming sentences he could partially decode. "Help, dying, plague, save, only you." Caden's jaw tightened. The ship wasn't just alive. It carried a warning. A civilization somewhere in the galaxy was in danger. And it had chosen humans, him specifically, to respond. His heart pounded. The responsibility was enormous. The temptation to turn back, to sell the ship for a fortune, flickered in his mind. But something deeper, human courage, determination, and morality, pushed him forward. He couldn't abandon it. Not when lives were at stake. "Argo," he said, determination hardening his voice, "we're going after it. No one else can do this. Only we can." The bot's optics glowed as if acknowledging the plan. Caden felt a spark of pride, not for himself, but for the human spirit. He realized humans weren't the strongest or the fastest or the most precise, but they were adaptable. They were clever. They were courageous. And in situations like this, that made them extraordinary. A sudden shudder ran through the ship. Panels rattled. The glowing symbols flashed erratically. A low, mechanical growl vibrated through the hull. Caden froze. The ship was alive and it was communicating more urgently now. Something was approaching, outside the wreckage. Dust swirled at the entrance as the desert wind shifted. Shadows moved across the hangar's broken walls. Caden's pulse raced. Whatever, or whoever, had left this ship behind might still be watching. He exchanged a glance with Argo. The bot's stance was firm, ready for combat, but it waited for his command. Caden's jaw set. Fear knotted in his stomach, but courage flared brighter. Humans survived impossible odds every day, he reminded himself. This was no different. Taking a deep breath, he gripped the console. "Let's see what you need from us," he said. The ship pulsed harder as if answering. The message had begun, and Caden knew they had no choice but to follow it, wherever it might lead. And somewhere deep in the desert graveyard, the other machines remained silent, their lifeless eyes watching, as if they too knew a human had just taken the first step toward something impossible. Caden's hands shook as he traced the glowing symbols along the ship's panels. Every pulse seemed to thrum against his chest as if the craft itself were alive, and waiting for him to understand. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. The desert outside was quiet, but inside this alien vessel, danger and opportunity pulsed together. One wrong move could trigger a defense he couldn't survive. Argo analyzed the energy flow. "Match it with the symbols. Help me decode it," he commanded. The bot's optics swiveled, scanning every line of light and energy with surgical precision. It had no intuition, no understanding of culture or reason, but it had speed, memory, and unerring accuracy. And right now, Caden needed both human instinct and machine precision to survive. He crouched over the central console, his fingers moving quickly, tracing patterns, pressing panels, testing the ship's responses. The symbols weren't just letters. They were instructions, encoded sequences layered over energy pulses. Caden realized that brute force or guesswork would get them killed. Logic and intuition were the only tools that could unlock this craft. A sudden jolt shook the floor, throwing dust into the air. Caden stumbled but kept his hands on the panels. The ship responded violently, energy shields flickering and warning lights flashing. Red beams shot out from concealed turrets, slicing across the cabin. Argo moved faster than Caden could process, intercepting a blast and blocking another with its armored arm. Sparks flew, and the heat made Caden's gloves stick to the controls. "Too fast for brute force," he muttered. "We have to think like it thinks." He studied the pattern of the pulsing symbols again. Repetition, symmetry, timing. There was a rhythm to it, a heartbeat hidden in the chaos. Human pattern recognition was imperfect, but adaptive. He could make leaps of logic machines could not. Caden tapped the panels in sequence, matching his movements to the ship's pulse. A turret fired. He ducked. Another panel pressed. The energy surge subsided slightly. Argo followed without hesitation, mimicking his timing perfectly. The ship responded with a brighter glow, pulsing in a softer rhythm. Caden's heart pounded. They were communicating almost like a game, but the stakes were life and death. The symbols now displayed a three-dimensional holographic map. Stars, planets, and glowing pathways spun in the air before him. A single planet glimmered brighter than the rest, surrounded by strange markings. Caden leaned closer. The patterns were not just a map, they were a warning. A civilization was in danger. The alien ship wasn't just alive, it had chosen them, human and machine, to act. "This is huge," he whispered. "They're asking for help." Argo's sensors lit up, scanning for threats. Caden realized they weren't alone. Somewhere outside the ship, or maybe within the ruins surrounding it, someone or something was monitoring their progress. Perhaps the previous owners had set this as a test. Perhaps the ship itself was testing their worth. Every pulse of energy felt like a judgment. A new warning flashed across the console, red light slicing across the cabin. A series of energy turrets activated simultaneously, firing arcs of searing light. Caden rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding one, while Argo intercepted another with its reinforced arm. Sparks flew, and a panel exploded in a shower of molten metal. Caden's mind raced. They couldn't fight this with firepower. The ship adapted faster than any machine he'd ever faced. He had to predict, anticipate, and outthink it. This was a test of human ingenuity, not brute force. He studied the sequence again, noticing a subtle variation in the symbol's pulse. A split-second delay repeated at intervals. It was a clue, an opening. Timing it perfectly, he pressed the panels in a precise rhythm, matching the pulse with instinct alone. Argo mirrored him exactly, moving in perfect sync. The turrets hesitated, energy beams flickering and retracting. The ship pulsed brighter, a low hum vibrating through the cabin. The turrets fully retracted. The warning lights faded. Caden's chest heaved, sweat burning his eyes. They had passed the first test. The ship was no longer hostile, it trusted them enough to reveal more. From the center of the cabin, the holographic projection expanded. Detailed sequences of stars, planets, and alien architecture formed in 3 dimensions. A sequence of symbols blinked rhythmically at the edges, slowly forming something Caden could partially interpret. Help, dying, only you, save. Caden's jaw tightened. The responsibility weighed heavily. They could have left, sold the ship, walked away. But that wasn't who he was. Humans survived impossible odds not by fleeing, but by facing them. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was the choice to act anyway. He straightened, voice steady despite the adrenaline. Argo, we're going after this. Whatever it takes. No one else can do it. The bot's optics glowed, acknowledging the decision. Caden smiled briefly, a spark of pride not for himself, but for the human spirit. Machines could calculate, anticipate, and protect. But only humans could improvise, empathize, and make the impossible decision to act. Another vibration shook the ship. Panels rattled and the pulsing symbols flashed urgently. Something outside was moving, approaching. The desert was quiet again, but Caden felt eyes watching from the shadows of the wreckage, waiting to see if they were worthy. He took a deep breath. Let's see what you need from us, he said. Argo's servos clicked in agreement. The ship pulsed harder, almost as if answering, and Caden felt the weight of every choice pressing on him. Whatever came next, they had already begun a journey no other human had attempted. And somewhere in the desert graveyard, the lifeless machines remained silent, bearing witness to a human taking the first step into the impossible. The desert wind had faded behind them, replaced by the hum of alien engines that thrummed through Caden's bones. The ship was alive, responsive, and somehow aware of their intent. Caden gripped the controls with both hands, eyes locked on the holographic map. The distant planet flickered before him, its symbols pulsing like a warning beacon. This wasn't just a delivery mission, it was a race against time. Argo, calibrate the thrusters. We need precision through the asteroid field ahead, Caden ordered. The bot's servos clicked, processing the command instantly. They were entering a sector of space littered with jagged debris, remnants of a war long forgotten. Each rock, each shard of metal, could tear through the alien hull like paper if they made a single miscalculation. Caden adjusted the course, heart hammering. He had navigated wrecked mining ships, scavenger outposts, and collapsing stations, but nothing like this. The asteroids shifted unpredictably, like a storm frozen in space. Calculations alone wouldn't save them. He had to anticipate, improvise, and react faster than any machine. That was the advantage of a human mind. A sudden jolt rocked the ship as a fragment scraped the hull. Sparks flashed across the control panel, and the pulse of the ship faltered for a moment. Caden's jaw clenched. Not now, he muttered. Argo extended its reinforced arm, bracing against the control panel and stabilizing the ship's internal systems. Together, human intuition and mechanical precision kept the vessel on course. The ship pulsed again, a steady rhythm guiding them through the deadliest section of the field. Caden followed the pattern, eyes darting between the holographic map and the incoming debris. Time slowed in his mind, every movement deliberate. A rock the size of a small building barreled toward them. He twisted the controls, banking sharply. Argo calculated the trajectory, countering the drift with micro-adjustments. They passed by inches. Sweat stung Caden's eyes and he wiped it away quickly. He couldn't afford distraction. They were so close. The planet's pulse was growing stronger through the ship, urgent and pleading. The alien civilization depended on them. The realization hit like a physical blow. The lives of an entire world rested on a human's choices. The asteroids weren't the only threat. Automated drones emerged from the debris, defense systems left behind by ancient aliens or scavengers. They fired energy pulses that tore through empty space, aiming to disable the ship. Caden ducked instinctively, pulling Argo into cover. The bot retaliated, firing short bursts that disabled the drones without destroying them. Caden refused to waste resources on unnecessary destruction. Human morality dictated restraint even in chaos. One drone surged too close, its targeting array locking onto the ship's pulse. Caden's mind raced. Argo blocked its attack, but the impact shook the hull. In that split second he made a calculation no algorithm could have predicted. He diverted the ship's energy to the shields, creating a feedback loop that sent the drone spiraling into the asteroid field. It collided with a jagged rock and exploded. Caden exhaled, heart hammering. Humans survived impossible odds not because they were perfect. They adapted. The asteroid field ended abruptly, revealing empty space beyond, and the planet loomed closer. The pulse of the ship intensified as if the craft itself were urging them to hurry. But there was one final challenge. A collapsing bridge of rock and metal stretched across their path, shifting and breaking apart faster than their sensors could track. One miscalculation and the ship would be crushed. Caden's hands moved faster than thought. He calculated angles, speed, and timing, relying on instinct honed from years of scavenging and surviving impossible situations. Argo mirrored him flawlessly, anticipating every move. The ship dove, rolled, and soared through the collapsing debris. Sparks flew from minor collisions, alarms blared, and dust-filled space swirled around them. The gap closed in front of them, but Caden held steady. With a final, precise maneuver, the ship cleared the collapse by mere inches. The pulse stabilized, soft and almost comforting. Caden slumped in his seat, adrenaline coursing through him. He glanced at Argo, whose sensors glowed faintly, reflecting the relief he felt. Together they had made it through impossible odds. Human courage, ingenuity, and determination had carried them through. The planet's surface now filled the viewscreen. Oceans shimmered, forests sprawled, but patches of decay and gray hinted at the crisis awaiting them. Caden felt a weight in his chest, the realization that surviving the journey was only the first step. The civilization below was counting on him. The alien ship pulsed again, projecting a set of instructions directly onto the cockpit's holo display. Nanite clouds were spreading through the atmosphere, consuming everything in their path. The message was clear: human action could stop it. Caden's eyes narrowed. "We can fix this. We have to," he said. Argo's optics glowed, scanning the instructions. He felt the hum of the ship against his hands, alive and aware, almost like a partner. The challenge ahead would be harder than any asteroid or drone, but he refused to turn away. Humans were defined by courage under impossible circumstances. The planet's pulse grew stronger, almost frantic. Caden took a deep breath and steadied his hands. The final test was ahead. Land, deploy the countermeasure, and save a civilization. Everything else, desert graveyards, asteroid fields, drones, was training for this moment. "Let's finish this," he whispered. The ship responded, a gentle vibration beneath his palms. He trusted him. And Caden Voss, a single human with a loyal combat bot at his side, would rise to meet a challenge no machine, no alien, and no algorithm could conquer alone. The planet's nanites glimmered below, spreading destruction. The countdown had begun. Failure was not an option. Caden gritted his teeth as the planet loomed beneath them, oceans shimmering through the thin haze of nanites. The clouds above twisted unnaturally, streaked with gray and silver. Below, forests and cities vanished into swarms of microscopic machines, consuming everything they touched. He swallowed hard, the weight of responsibility pressing on him like gravity. This wasn't just a mission, it was the lives of an entire civilization resting on human hands. "Argo," he said, voice firm but edged with tension, "we're doing this. No mistakes." The bot's optics glowed steadily. It had no fear, but Caden felt its readiness as a kind of shared resolve. Together, they were human intuition paired with machine precision, a combination no alien system could predict or surpass. The ship descended through the planet's upper atmosphere. The nanite clouds thinned and swirled around them, magnetic pulses threatening to disrupt the hull. Caden kept a steady hand, adjusting shields and thrusters, trusting the ship's responses but also trusting his own judgment. Any hesitation could be fatal. Below, the map the ship had projected flickered. A series of alien glyphs appeared, guiding him to the source of the nanite infestation. Caden studied them carefully, deciphering patterns and flow, knowing the smallest error would render their efforts useless. Time was running out. Each second, the nanites devoured more land, more life, leaving destruction in their wake. "Prepare the deployment sequence," Caden ordered. Argo's servos clicked in readiness. Together, they initiated the alien countermeasure. Tiny drones unfolded from the ship, designed to neutralize the nanites, scanning the air and targeting swarms with precise bursts of energy. Caden watched the holographic displays, heart hammering. Every drone had to hit its target. There was no room for error. A sudden tremor shook the ship. Turbulent currents of nanites reacted unpredictably, swarming like a storm with awareness. Caden's mind raced. Argo, override the pattern. Adjust the vector to follow my calculation. The bot immediately complied, shifting the countermeasure drones in sync with Caden's manual adjustments. The ship hummed as energy flowed, nanites breaking apart under the pulses. But the storm wasn't finished. A massive cluster of nanites surged, targeting the drones directly. Caden's instincts took over. He performed a maneuver no algorithm could anticipate, diving the ship at an impossible angle, dodging the surge while guiding the drones to intercept. Argo mirrored his every move flawlessly. Sparks and energy arcs flashed across the view screen, but Caden pressed on. Almost there, he muttered, sweat dripping down his face. Hold steady. The nanite storm roared like a living thing, yet the human mind, paired with machine loyalty, carved a path through it. Caden adjusted the ship's shields, routing extra energy to the countermeasure drones. One by one, the swarms broke apart, disintegrating in glimmers of light. Forests and cities began to reappear beneath the haze, slowly recovering as the nanites vanished. A soft pulse ran through the ship. The alien symbols blinked in approval, almost like a heartbeat of gratitude. Caden exhaled for the first time in hours, relief washing over him, but he knew the danger wasn't fully gone. The planet's surface was stabilizing, but the effort had pushed both human and machine to their limits. Argo's servos relaxed slightly, reflecting the tension lifting. Caden allowed himself a brief smile. We did it, buddy. We actually did it. His voice carried awe, exhaustion, and pride all at once. He looked out at the planet, now shimmering with life returning, realizing the true scale of their achievement. Humans had made the difference. Intelligence, courage, and determination had overcome an impossible threat that no machine alone could have handled. The ship pulsed again, projecting a final message in the alien language. Caden deciphered just enough to understand: gratitude, species saved, remember courage. He felt a chill run down his spine. They hadn't just completed a mission, they had answered a call no one else could, proving the value of human resolve in the vast, uncaring galaxy. Caden guided the ship back toward the edge of the planet's orbit. The nanite clouds were gone, replaced by clean, vibrant air, oceans sparkling in the sunlight. The holographic map folded, and the symbols faded to a gentle glow. The alien vessel pulsed softly, almost like it was breathing a sigh of relief. He looked at Argo. We were the only ones who could do this, he said quietly. The only ones. There was pride in his voice, but also humility. Humans were small, fragile, and fallible, but courage, intellect, and determination could tip the scales in ways nothing else could. The desert graveyard and the long journey through hazards, puzzles, and tests all led to this moment. Caden felt the satisfaction of having faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. Not through luck, not through brute force, but through human ingenuity and moral choice. The universe had given him a challenge and humans had answered. Finally, he guided the ship back toward the stars, leaving the planet safe, its people unaware of the danger they had narrowly escaped. The alien vessel hummed gently, almost as if nodding in approval. Caden's pulse slowed. He realized that human courage had made the difference, and for a moment he felt connected to something greater than himself. A chain of responsibility, intelligence, and heroism stretching across the galaxy. Let's go home, Argo, he said, a small smile forming. But remember this, humans rise where others fail. We never give up. The ship pulsed one last time and then, as if honoring their achievement, shot off into hyperspace, leaving Caden and Argo in quiet orbit. Below them, life thrived once again. Caden stared at the stars, feeling the weight of everything they had accomplished. One human, one machine had faced the impossible, and they had won. And somewhere, far across the galaxy, a message still pulsed. Humanity mattered. Courage mattered. Intelligence mattered. And the spark of human heroism could change worlds.